we're not dead. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, a podcast where you don't have to be Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. You're welcome, Lions, because we gave you a better draft pick by beating the Rams. Grossi. And today we're going to break down the Green Bay Packers win over the LA Rams 24-12. The Packers basically need to win out and get some help in order to make it to the playoffs, and they did the first step of that. Their next game will be on Christmas Day against the Miami Dolphins, which will be a much tougher challenge than the Rams were tonight. And overall, it was a good game for the Packers. I think they left a lot of opportunities on the field. There's some things I really did not like, whether it was with the defense or whether it was with the inconsistency of the offense. But overall, the Packers were pretty dominant this game. The Rams, I mean, they're just not a good football team. The Rams are now eliminated from the postseason. And that Super Bowl hangover, woof. Yeah, that was rough. But taking a look at those stats tonight, Rodgers, 22 for 30, 229 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, was sacked 3 times. Definitely had some pressure at times. Josh Nijman not having the greatest of nights. But Rodgers, there was one really bad interception, and that's going to be talked about tonight and also tomorrow, in which he had Allen Lazard wide open, and I mean wide open, and instead floated it over his head to a wide open corner who wound up intercepting it and running it back. And the Packers, again, just left opportunities and points on the board here. Thankfully, they were able to still get the win. People started saying Rodgers is washed, but then people started blaming Lazard, but there was obviously a miscommunication between the two receivers. This wasn't the first time it happened this evening, because you had it later in which Rodgers was actually giving a signal to Christian Watson, and they were trying to do a wide receiver screen, and Watson never turned around. This coming fresh off the story that coaches don't even know the signals sometimes, and wide receivers just need to learn them. They're not in the playbook. It's just something that Rodgers utilizes from previous offenses. But either way, wasn't a great look. Thankfully, it didn't sink the Packers, but still problematic. Looking at some of our biggest contributors tonight, Aaron Jones, 17 carries for 90 yards, 4 receptions for 36 yards, and a touchdown. Also had a fumble, but that was really honestly just a good play by the Rams defense, and the refs didn't blow the play dead. Meanwhile, A.J. Dillon, 11 for 36, 2 tutties on the night, was running strong tonight. Also had 3 receptions for 35 yards. Unfortunately, left the game early due to concussion protocol. Hopefully he's okay. Our leading receiver, Romeo Doubs, returning from injury, 5 receptions for 55 yards. Christian Watson, 4 for 46, was targeted 6 times, which was a team high. However, even though he didn't blow up the stat sheet, Christian Watson was blocking his ass off this evening, and that was something that you absolutely love to see. In total, the Packers had over 130 yards of rushing, and this is going to kind of be the formula they're going to need to have to beat the Miami Dolphins. And besides the interception and the fumble, the offense was pretty darn good and consistent the entire evening. They had the game well in hand, and it really wasn't an issue. This is the kind of offense we're going to need to see, minus the mistakes, going forward if the Packers want any chance of making the playoffs. However, you look at the defense. Besides getting 5 sacks, Preston Smith getting a couple of those, there were some issues there. And talking about the secondary, in which Baker Mayfield was just begging the Packers to intercept him, and they did once. Rasul Douglas, who did not have the greatest of nights. Rasul Douglas was playing soft coverage, really didn't look like he was even trying at some points, but got an interception, and then apparently watched the Patriots game and said, hey, what Jacoby Myers did, I could do that too, and tried to lateral it. It counted as a fumble, but thankfully the Packers were able to fall back on top of it. So it's just some weird play from Rasul Douglas, who has been inconsistent this year. But to be completely fair, that's been our entire secondary. What was supposed to be a very strong point of our defense has kind of looked shaky over these past few weeks, and definitely did not look the greatest tonight. But they did enough to get the job done against a bad Rams team. Baker Mayfield, only 12 for 21, had 111 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and as I said, was sacked 5 times. Cam Akers, not only their leading rusher with 65 yards, but also their leading receiver with 35 yards. Van Jefferson was their second leading receiver. And again, the Rams really weren't able to do much on offense, but it just seemed that this should have been a more dominant game than it was. And I understand it's tough for consistency in the NFL, especially after what you saw in the chaotic Week 15. But the Packers coming off a bye, I think you just wanted to see a little bit more. I'm very happy that they got the win. But going up against better teams, they cannot make these same mistakes on offense and defense that they did tonight. On top of that, you had some really dumb penalties, and that's just a discipline issue that they need to get under wraps. But at the end of the day, the Green Bay Packers are 6-8. This is their first back-to-back win since week 2 and 3, which is a little bit rough. Looking ahead, they are at the Dolphins on Christmas Day. Then they have the Vikings and Lions at home. 3 tough games and ones that they need to win in order to try and make the playoffs. On top of that, they need the Seahawks to lose one more game. The Seahawks are playing the Chiefs, which they should lose, then the Jets, then the Rams. So 2 out of those 3 games are definitely going to be tough, so that is likely to happen. And they need Washington, who lost to the Giants on Sunday night, to lose 2 more games. They're playing at the 49ers, which is a very losable game. Then they're playing the Browns and the Cowboys. The one concern is going to be the Cowboys. Are they going to have anything to play for? They're playing the Eagles on Saturday night. Looks like it's going to be without Jalen Hurts. And who knows, they may be locked in their playoff seeding at that point, so they might not have much to play for. So unfortunately, you might have to hope the Browns beat the Commanders. But honestly, none of that matters right now because the Packers are just taking it week by week. Overall, it was a solid performance with definitely room to improve. The big thing that I wanted to see was Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson on the field at the same time, and those were our 2 leading receivers. You got some great production from Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Hopefully Dillon will be ready to go next week. But overall, the Packers advanced to 6-8, and they ain't dead yet. But before we get out of here, I want to do a big shout and thank you to some brand new YouTube members over on the Grossi Posse Plus. First, we got King. Then we have It's Maximus, Leo G, Zach Gibbs, and Will Ward. A big shout out and thank you to you all. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. How do you feel about this Packers win? Are you more optimistic about their upcoming slate of games? Think they can still make the playoffs? I got the hope. Let me know. You can send me at TomGrossiComedy.com or TomGrossiComedy, all social media you see down below. Check out Podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all the patrons who are patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy and the YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.